first of all, I would really like to go into why the disciples, what the belief they had as to, because if you look at the society, they believe that when someone had a sickness or something,
It's
it was
something.
because of something that they did, you know?
Something they did, yes.
Something that they did as to why they were so. This was how the society was in Jesus' day. People believe, well, if I had this, is because as you read, it says, and how did Jesus correct that? It was some false belief that was going on. That was there. Christ wanted to correct that. That was not what they thought that the man was. It wasn't this. And Christ was there to prove that this false theory that they have is wrong.
It's wrong.
Just imagine that people sick,
Yes.
all the years that this man, we say, born blind, couldn't see. And then all of a sudden now, Christ came on the scene and the man can see.
Yes.
Now, shouldn't the leaders, shouldn't the people be happy for him? Shouldn't they be happy for him?
Well, it goes to show the callousness, you know, and self is just selfishness, because there was no sympathy for the man, because their motive, they want to capture Christ, they want to do something to Christ, and so it sort of, you know, you see, hatred can cause you to be so, to lose all human sympathies and all those qualities that you should have towards one another. Your humanity is diminished when self gets in the way, and so it sort of numb their senses in that direction, and that's not a good thing. That's why, you know, we have to do our best to see everyone, look at the good, cherish the good in everybody. In the as the saying goes, in the best of us there's something bad, and in the worst of us is something good. So it behoves each of us to do what? Everybody remember that thought? Can look it up and read it from the best of us. So, yes, I take your point that instead of rejoicing over the sheep that has been found, symbolically his sickness is gone. They were trying to find way of criticizing and you know, blaming the parents, but Christ corrected them. All right, you want to go ahead, Sister Johnson.
Yeah, the disciples felt the same way too. I'll read this from the Advanced Sabbath School lesson. It said, the belief of Jews in regard to the relation of sin and suffering was held by Christ's disciples. While Jesus corrected their error, he did not explain the cause of the man's affliction, but told them what would be the result. Because of it, the works of God would be made manifest. As long as I am in the world, he said, I am the light of the world. Then, having anointed the eyes of the blind man, he sent him to wash in the pool of Siloam. The man's sight was restored. Thus, Jesus answers the question of the disciples in a practical way, as he usually answered questions put to him from curiosity. The disciples were not called upon to discuss the question as to who had sinned or had not sinned, but to understand the power and mercy of God and giving sight to the blind. It was evident that there was no healing virtue in the clay or in the pool wherein the blind man was sent to wash, but that the virtue was in Christ.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, that's where the virtue is, and I hope we know that. But I like the part where it says that he didn't explain why. He told them it's not. He answered them that it's not, but he didn't explain his sickness. And you know, sometimes we want to major in the minor. It's not necessary for us to know all the details of the sickness. So Christ was focused and was trying to get them focused. And so that they'll understand. So the overall theme, of course, we know that these are proving that he is divine.
Elder,
But
can I ask, can we be blindsided by our belief and tradition? I'm so accustomed of this because it seems to me, because of the belief system that was going on and the tradition of doing the way they used to do things, so it was kind of difficult for them to accept Christ because they were so caught up in tradition and the belief system that was there. So to move away from that, it was a little bit very strange to them.
yeah,
And that's why Christ was trying to move them away from that belief system and tradition, and they better understand who Christ was and his mission.
So it begs the question, as you said, what should it take, or what would it take to, I mean, how much more could Jesus have done? I mean, up to that time, you know, even through this lesson here, look at those miracles. How would you describe those miracles? Those divine, those miracles. I mean, there's nothing else to say about them. Look at those wonderful, those outstanding things that they have seen, new things that shows that God is just like us here today. We're looking at the universe. We're looking at the, you know, we read about the galaxies and all that, and man will say it's a big bang, and the big bang just keep these things in operation. Not why the big bang not causing them to clash on one another. All the order of the universe, the order of our bodies, the order of our organs and our tissues and our cells, and all the pumping systems that are there, the heart and the, you know, the endocrine system, all these balance, all these orders. What else do you need to know that there's a God? You don't need anything else. But as you said, Satan blinded their eyes. They were distracted. They were confused and distracted. And that's how Satan tried to keep us in a confused and distracted position. All right,
I think when Christ mentioned the parable of the sower, you know, when they sow seeds, some fall by the wayside, some on the rocks, some on sand, you know, some different, and this is why when Christ was going around Many people walked with him. Some believed in Christ, some did not. Some was trying to find ways to put him down, you know, and so forth. And so forth. So you have all different category of people, but at the end, you know, that Christ's mission was not to fail. Because remember that same people Satan was trying to work through in order for Christ to abort his mission.
All right, anything else on Tuesday? Anybody? We're going to go to Monday.
Wednesday.
Wednesday.
The healing of the blind man, part 2.
Part 2, yes.
This long section of John 9 is the only portion. Oh, let me go.
17 to 34.
17 to 34. What question did the leaders ask, and how did the blind man respond?
All right, let's read this part and sum it up.
The long section of John 9 is the only portion of John where Jesus is not the main actor on the stage, though he certainly is the subject of discussion. Just as the question of sin started the story, the Pharisees think Jesus is a sinner because he healed on the Sabbath. And they will slander the healed man as born in utter sin. A curious reversal occurs. The blind man comes to see more and more, not just physically but spiritually, as he's growing in his appreciation for Jesus and believing more strongly in him. The Pharisees, in contrast, become more and more blind in their understanding, first being divided over Jesus and then not knowing where he came from. Meanwhile, his recounting of this miracle gives John the opportunity to tell us who Jesus is. The theme of signs in John 9 intersects with several other themes in the Gospel. John reaffirms that Jesus is the light of the world. The story also deals with Jesus' mysterious origin. Who is he? Where is he from? What is his mission? The figure of Moses, who is referenced in previous miracle accounts, also appears in the chapter. Moses fed them manna in the desert. So, the lesson then says, so scary is the spiritual blindness of the religious leaders.
Spiritual blindness.
That, you know, it's scary. So we stop there for Wednesday.
Right, so Christ healed the blind, part 1. And he applied the physical stuff
Remedy.
that is a representation of what he has done spiritually for us. Because remember, we said that we are aware that we read really that the virtue of healing is not in the mud, not in him going to the pool to wash, but sometimes we have to do our part. Our part, you know. We have to act. We have to act out our faith, and the action of the man is our action, is depicting our action as our spiritually, you know, because we are spiritually, we at times are spiritually blind.
How did the man get to the pool to wash?
That's a good question.
He came back seeing.
He came back seeing, but Christ told him to go. So I guess he uses his blind stick onto.
Oh, it's blind stick.
Remember, there were lots of people who were sick, and their family members, people. They heard that Christ was healing people.
Yes.
And for example, look at the man they let down through the roof.
Yes.
Oh.
Other people who had to help. So when Christ tell him to go, people help him go to the pool.
Well,
you know?
yeah, well, that could be, but it's not recorded. I mean, we know that.
Not recorded, but
yes.
I mean, we can pick the thing out of it and understand.
Yeah, but even blind Bartimaeus on the road.
Yes, crying out.
Crying out when he perceived, he knew Christ. He didn't see Christ, but he listened. Because you see, when you have a deficiency in these areas, other areas become so, prominent or active. And I believe even in his blindness did not stop him from moving around, this one. Blind Bartimaeus, he was on the way, but when he heard Jesus, he used his voice. And when they told him, quiet, he shouted more. Jesus Christ of Nazareth. He shouted him out. And, Christ acknowledged the faith of these blind folk and rewarded them.
Yeah,
so when
I just wanted, sorry. Go ahead.
Right, so when you express your faith, when you trust in God, you will be rewarded tenfold, because he gained his sight both physically and spiritually, right? You agree? Go ahead.
Okay, what I want to say is, you see, Christ wanted to expose also the hypocrisy of the Pharisees, those leaders. Because remember, they had twist everything around to suit them.
Yes.
Where the people, and remember it was a Sabbath day.
Yeah, let's talk about that.
They make this Sabbath day a burden.
A burden, yes. Let's talk about that.
So then Christ came, and then Christ exposed the hypocrisy in them.
Yeah.
Now they were mad, they were furious. How could he come and then do this on the Sabbath day?
And they were happy too, because they caught him in sin. They were happy for that.
Yeah, well, they believed they caught him, but
they had something to charge him with.
Right, but remember, Christ could have seen deep down in them the hypocrisy and whatnot. And then, if you, I think, read somewhere in the book of Isaiah, where it says, the Spirit is who was there with the blind man, because when they trying to question him, who did this? And the answer that the man, it was not just from him. The Spirit was speaking to him.
Mm-hmm.
To expose, to make like a puppet show of them.
Of course.
That was what was going on. Look at the blind man. What did he say? All I know is that he take the thing and then he was, I don't know,
Yes.
Just make a mockery and a puppet show of them.
Mm-hmm. All right, anybody else, Brother Ralph? You good? You're good. Upon the quiet side. All right, I understand.
Thursday.
All right. You're saying something, or you good?
No, go ahead.
Okay. All right. So, well, Sister Johnson, you have anything on that you want to read? Let me read this one. You want to read? Go ahead.
I was going to start with the man. Where were you going to?
Wednesday. Well, Wednesday. You can do all of it if you want.
Oh, Wednesday. Okay, so yeah, the last paragraph on that.
Okay.
His desire of ages 474, paragraph 3, said a man had met his inquisitors on their own ground. His reasoning was unanswerable. Pharisees were astonished, and they held their peace, spellbound before his pointed, determined words. For a few moments there was silence. Then the frowning priests and rabbis gathered about them, their robes as though they feared contamination from contact with him. They shook off the dust from their feet and hurled denunciations against him. Thou wast altogether born in sins, and doest thou teach us? And they excommunicated him. And that's
they excommunicated him. That is one thing that they held over the people's head.
Well,
to drive them out of the synagogue, and they were so afraid of that. Yes.
It tells us when we're going to stand up for Christ, okay, that they are going to do everything possible to...
The Bible tells us.
Just like when the time of trouble comes, where will you and I stand, you know?
But the sad part about it, is priests, he's supposed to be God's people.
Yeah.
Supposed to be spiritual
the real
leaders.
Something to save, he couldn't do nothing for him.
So, right. And that is telling us now, as you said, people are there just to tell the truth. Just to, today, if you read from the testimonies in the church, you have issues with some folk. You know that, right? Because they are, it seems like the testimony get them irritated. Get some leaders irritated. But just to read from the testimony something that they never heard before. The truth of the hour, really. And so he was giving them up-to-date truth. Christ had proven that he was the Messiah. The thing is, let me ask you this question. Suppose Christ had come, like a royal with riches and things. You think they would accept him? It would be a different story. What if he had come opposite to being lowly and humble and all that? What do you think?
You see, there is a controversy that we had to look at the controversy that's going on all now.
Controversy.
If you look at the reading telling you about the leaders and what the leaders love. Today, if you go to church, and then as a normal man, you telling anybody the truth, they're going to ask you which college you go to. They're going to ask you where you get your learning, and then they're going to say, check the pastor. The pastor said this. And if the pastor said that, that's it. So it's not about, the reading is showing us what going on even today. Jesus said to the blind man, go down and watch the pool. And Jesus said all these things because he wants people to observe the words that he used. They bring life. And according to the brother saying that, no, but the man was around all the time. He could have moved, he blind, but he could walk, he could see in his spirit.
Oh, yeah.
So blind people know where they're going. They're blind, but they know they're going over by the shop over there. They know they're going. They're knocking. They're going. So this man, Jesus tell him go down by the pool. He goes to the pool himself. Nobody can me go down by the pool because Jesus was dealing with the man to show them the power that he have. But they wasn't looking for no power. They're looking to condemn. Everything they trying to find a way to condemn this man because they want to condemn him.
Yeah.
And this is what is going on today. We had to bring it back home into the church. The leaders in the church. The church not looking for the truth. The church looking for ways to condemn everything. And you don't care what truth comes, they say they try to condemn it. They try to condemn the truth. They're not looking for truth. They try to betray you. They try to bury you. They try to finish with you.
Excommunicate.
Yeah, because it's truth.
That's a big word there.
Yes. So truth is what the whole world fighting today, up to this time. Up to this time. That's why they want to do done away with it. They don't want to done away with truth. They don't want no truth.
Yeah.
They want. So that's why I don't want to look at.
Why is that? Why is that? What the truth does to people who are against it? What it does to them? It irritates them. It's like a dagger, right? The Bible calls it scorpion. Sting.
It
It stings.
Yeah, it will sting.
Yeah, you see, when light comes to us and we refuse to accept light, we will believe a lie, and that's where unbelief comes in, because we are doubting the power of God. We are doubting it, and then we don't want to accept the truth.
That's it.
So we are doubting the power of God, whether God is able to do or to do that, you know.
Oh.
God says in Psalms 9, it said, he that dwelleth in the secret place of the Most High shall abide under the shadow of the Almighty. No evil angel, no pestilence by day, you know. This is promise God made, and we have to believe that, you know, that God, when He says something, He mean it, and we have to claim it by faith. And this is the unbelief, and how back then how society was all messed up with all this different belief system. It's the same thing today.
Same thing.
We live in a world where, I don't condemn education, it's good, but it has gone to a degree where everybody now PhD, doctorate, and then the Spirit of God is not taking effect in the lives of boys.
Education is good. Use it to the glory of God. And Christ didn't just tell you to do it. Especially based on this lesson here, we are seeing Him, rolling up His sleeves and working hard, working miracles, and in the case of this this blind man, He made sure that he stooped down, just as He did when He made us. He made Adam. He stooped down. Yes.
And this is what we have to look at in the lesson, because the things that name what Jesus was doing, there was no book sense. That wasn't book sense.
No.
They put some dirt in the man's eye.
Right.
There was no book sense. That thing there looked like no book sense. So they asked him, this man, he ain't get no knowledge. Where he learn? Where he get the learning from? But Jesus showing you these simple things, and He healing the people.
Right.
The simple way. There's no magic in what Jesus was doing. Jesus was just doing something and say, go and watch it out. Do this and do it.
So remember, Christ was the creator of heaven and earth.
Yeah.
So Christ knew. Remember, He says that the very hair of your head are all numbered. So Christ knew us by every strand of hair.
Yes.
So He knows what your body need. He knows what. So it's the same thing. When Christ tells you to move, He means move.
Then you know what?
He knows all about us. So He knows what is best for us.
Yeah.
That's one of the problem is that like you said, sometimes tradition and unbelief, these things put us in the way, and we keep doubting the promise of God, and we don't reach out in faith. We don't claim the promises that He made. And that's why we find ourselves in the review mirror wondering whether I should go forward or not.
Right.
When Christ said to go forward.
Right. Well,
He didn't tell the blind man, if you want to go to the pool, go.
No.
He said, go and wash. Go.
Go and wash.
Go and wash.
Christ is rounded. He touched his every aspect of our life. Notice that last time we looked at the miracle of the wine, the water into wine. He just spoke, and at times he spoke. This time he touched, and so hands-on. So he's showing us, and this time he commanded him to go to wash. He didn't have to tell him, he didn't have to do all that, but he showed you that he is rounded. It touches all the things that we are
But one more thing,
familiar with.
Brother Willis, see the scriptures, you don't add and don't take away, don't put a dot and don't put a cross.
Right.
Them is solid text, The text are them solid. Just don't put
Oh
nothing
yes,
to-
oh yes, that's
Jesus
fundamental.
said this, don't add nothing to it.
The other take away, that's fundamental.
Yeah.
Yes. All right, Thursday. Let's get my queen here to
Yes,
bed.
the Thursday, the resurrection of
Another.
Lazarus.
Huh?
And now I said this is another powerful one, because earlier I said that remember you have the scribes and the Pharisees.
Yes,
And then you have
they
the
believe
Sadducees.
different. Yeah.
The Sadducees believe differently in that they don't believe
In the
in the
resurrection.
resurrection.
Yeah.
And here it is, Christ came and resurrected Lazarus. After 4 days he had died.
Yes.
And that triggered a whole thing among the Pharisees. And oh my, they were furious.
Well,
And if they could have killed Christ, what they would have,
Well,
and they joined, and
They started to
the
plot.
Sadducees, and then they wasn't really, how do you say it, they wasn't getting along, because the Sadducees and then
no, they were
they
two
had
opposing blocks. Two opposing
Yeah,
blocks.
two
But they
opposing.
came together
But when Christ
on
came
common
and
ground.
did this now, they
Yes.
come together.
on common
from
ground.
the-
Yes, that's all.
to find a common ground. You could imagine. You imagine.
He was breaking up the teaching, what I was teaching all the time. Christ come and mash it up.
Yes.
Upset.
They didn't like that. They didn't like that. Well, they must saying something long all the time. All the time they're saying something and everybody believed. Christ come and say something different, so they didn't like that.
Right. The bullyment was like Samson. Just show me. If Samson said, show me the main column in this place. Christ just grabbed the main column, and the theory was just crumbling. All right, let's see. It said the resurrection of Lazarus. Read John 11:38 to 44. What did Jesus do that supported his claim?
Jesus therefore again groaning in himself cometh to the grave. It was a cave, and a stone lay upon it. Jesus said, take ye away the stone. Martha, the sister of him that was dead, said unto him, Lord, by this time he stinketh, for he hath been dead 4 days. Jesus said unto her, said I not unto thee, that if thou wouldest believe, thou wouldest see the glory of God?
You hear that term again?
Then they took away the stone from the place where the dead was laid. And Jesus lifted up his eyes and said, Father, I thank thee that thou hast heard me. And I knew that thou hearest me always. But because of the people which stand by, I said it, that they may believe that thou hast sent me. And when he had thus spoken, he cried with a loud voice, Lazarus, come forth. And he that was dead came forth, bound hand and foot with grave clothes, and his face was bound about with a napkin. Jesus said unto them, loose him and let him go. He came out bound.
So how did he come out?
Yeah.
So
Mash them up.
is an angel conveying because he couldn't walk.
Angel can
Mash them up, man. Mash them up. Mash them up.
That's
all
right.
all
Mash
these
them up.
points,
Lose him, and let him go. Why you time up? Lose him.
Yes, Satan, the
Man, I
time.
said, the man
You
died
see?
4 days. 4 days.
And that's a decayed man, right?
Decay
Yes.
man. Decay man.
So nobody can gainsay that. I
When you
mean,
study Jesus, man, sometimes I study Jesus and I say, boy, believe. What is belief? You say, without faith, it
it's
is impossible
impossible.
to please God.
Impossible.
You can't have shaky faith. We have to believe in the word. But we doubt. We doubt.
Without.
Yeah.
Help by my unbelief.
but all this stems also from the what was happening around, what was being said about the state of the dead and so forth. And Christ came to put an end to all this, to make me believe that I am the resurrection and
Yes.
the life.
That's
You
it.
know, I can give life. And it was to put the hypocrisy of these leaders aside, and so people could believe that Christ he has the power, and if they believe in Christ, it can be done.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
that's the only person could give life. Only Jesus could give life. No, the other one giving life, he was the only one could give real life. Yeah. So in all them healing I was talking about last week, all those healing, Jesus was showing you that when I heal, I heal.
Yes.
Yeah.
When you raise the dead, you raise the dead. Now,
Yeah,
as you
that's what's showing you that.
as you touch on the state of the
But
dead.
then, well, but it tells us also that it says those who die in the Lord, no matter how many years you in the grave, when the sound of the trumpet come, Christ is able to raise you up.
Right.
That power is still available today.
Yes.
Oh my.
It's gonna be available.
We have to believe that.
Amen.
We have to believe that.
And he raised Lazarus even before he was raised from the dead, even before his crucifixion, right?
Yeah.
He raised him. And so
He naturally is a raiser.
yes, even before he died, he raised
He
Lazarus.
is life. He
So,
is life.
You know.
Life.
And as you touch the state of the dead, we know that the state of the dead, as you touch it, we may as well just say it out. There is nobody that is in heaven after they die. You know, that's just a theory. If that were the case, all the real estate that you have around with graves might as well you don't bother with that. Don't occupy the real estate with graves and call it cemeteries, because there's a lot of many acres of land covered with that, so you wouldn't need to do that. Because all
Go over
happened.
that statement, Brother William. That statement.
I'm saying, if for the people who believe, there are many people who believe in the state of the dead, that when your loved one died, they say, absent from the body, present with the Lord. The Bible says that, but it's a wrong interpretation. But I was saying, instead of occupying real estate, the land, with all these cemeteries, thousands of acres of land, if that were the case, it wouldn't be necessary for you to have occupy those lands if people were going. I'm just saying this as Brother John referred to the state of the dead. The doctrine, the theory of the state of the dead is unbiblical, because Lazarus was in the grave just the same way the sisters described this situation, that he died and he was now, after these days, the body was decaying. That's what happened. The body is in the grave, decayed, and as you've also mentioned, that only when Christ raised them, the righteous will be raised at the first resurrection, and the wicked at the second resurrection. That's it. And there will be a mixed resurrection somewhere before Christ comes. Daniel 12. It's called the partial resurrection. That Seventh-day Adventists usually use that phrase, but today we call it the special resurrection. That's resurrection ahead of us. And of course, the testimony tells us that where faithful Seventh-day Adventists will be raised in this second resurrection, in this special resurrection. And it's a mixed resurrection of righteous and wicked. Because it says those who slay will come up in that resurrection, some of them. So we just thought we might go there since you brought that up. I'm going to read the last Thursday, then Friday, and we're done. Because it's important to go deep into these studies. Get our...
But before you go to that point,
yes.
In the general resurrection, would there be any Adventists coming up?
The general resurrection, no. Those who died in faith, and we can, well, we don't have the time, but those who died in faith, early writings 285, of the third angel message, will come up in this special resurrection of Daniel chapter 12. And so, take up that phone for me. Let me just give some references that people might check out. Also, may want to question that this partial resurrection or the special resurrection. And you can read references. Early writings 285 will tell us about those who died in faith of the third angel's message. Early writings 285, well, it will be on record because this is on record, so you can play back the tape and find. Volume 7, page 17 says, your work and my work will not cease in this life, but we'll take up our work once more in the kingdom. And explanation on this we can get from Great Controversy 637. Great Controversy 637. I just read this. It says, and many of them that sleep in the dust, this is Daniel 12:2, of the earth shall awake, some to everlasting life, and some to shame and everlasting contempt. Many folk among us as Seventh-day Adventists, we say that this is just talking about the major resurrections.
Yes.
But it's not so. That's wrong. That's the Bible is clear. It says some to this and It's clear. No corners in that to go wrong. It says this resurrection will have those who are wicked.
Only writing 285.
Yes, the writings 285 will give that explanation that those who die under it. In faith, the third angel message will be those who will come up in that resurrection. So Seventh-day Adventists have their own special resurrection. Did you know that? It's beautiful. All right, I'll read this part and we wrap it up. Anybody else has anything to say? Or I see a phone number 12293. Your phone number ends with 738. You have anything to say? Contribute. Brother Carl. Alright, we're gonna read Thursday. It says here, I'm just going to go in the time. And when he thus had spoken, he cried with a loud voice. Did he have to cry with a loud voice? Lazarus, come forth! His voice, clear and penetrating, pierced the ear of the dead. As he speaks, divinity flashes through humanity in his face, which is lighted up by the glory of God, and the people see the assurance of his power. Every eye is fastened on the entrance of the cave. Every ear is bent to catch the slightest sound. With intense and painful interest, all wait for the test of Christ's divinity, the evidence that is to substantiate his claim to be the Son of God, or to extinguish the hope forever. That's Desire of Ages 5:36. There is a stir in the silent tomb. And he who was dead stands up at the door of the sepulchre. His movement are impeded by the grave clothes in which he was laid away. And Christ says to the astonished spectators, loose him and let him go. Again, they are shown that the human worker is to cooperate with God. That's what I was intimating when I said that when Christ sent him to send the man, the blind man, this is exactly what I was thinking. And it says that Christ says, it says that Lazarus, where did I read that? So that Christ says, loose him and let him go. They are shown that the human worker is to cooperate with God. Humanity is to work with humanity. Humanity is to work for humanity. That's what I say. Lazarus is set free and stands before the company, not as one emaciated from disease and with feeble tottering limb, but as a man in the prime of life and in a vigor of noble manhood. His eyes beam with intelligence and with love for his Savior. He cast himself in adoration at the feet of Jesus. So you see, his brain and everything was better than before, and that demonstrates to us too, as inspiration said, that when the righteous would be raised, all the diseases and deformities and everything, every what do you say now? Every defects would have been removed. He would come up pure with. If he had a limb that was missing, it would come up with it brand new. But the thing is, yes, and that's before he's made. Okay, that's before he's made. Well, Queen A show me the time, 11 o'clock. All right. Yes.
Jesus was demonstrating something. Jesus came demonstrating that he could raise the dead, he could give life. But they were trying to kill Jesus. You're trying to kill a man who could give life, or you're going to kill him?
Well, you know, some of them, you know, it's because the people, they were convinced, I believe, but the hatred and their motive, their goal, you know, and also the Romans was behind it too, because the Romans and the Jews were in cohesion.
Crucified, because they want to get rid of him. But is the man that giving life? Or this man going to come back alive? They're not thinking, crucify him, kill him. But he's the man with a lot of dead people.
That's blindness.
Yeah, blindness. And you see, when you are determined to do evil, you get so blind that it doesn't make sense.
Blind.
Yes, you can't make sense of action.
It was difficult for a lot of them to really accept Christ because of what was already projected about Christ. Who is he? He was born in a manger. He had no pedigree, you know?
Yes. Yeah.
So some of them, no matter what Christ did there, and then the leaders had poisoned the mind of the people.
Yes.
That Christ is like he was a nobody, he was an outcast.
He was a
society.
nobody to them, yeah.
So a lot of them had this notion about Christ. So no matter what Christ do around them, they already know that he was a nobody.
He's a nobody.
Where did you went to school? You have no knowledge, you know, where?
Well,
you don't have a job.
And that was fading, that ideology.
He didn't have a job.
Yeah.
He didn't qualify for a job.
But that was fading, and they became afraid. They were fading. It was that ideology was fading because they realized that no man, this is real. This couldn't be. What they held, what they believed him to be, what they looked down on him, they were realizing now that this man is good. This is a prophet. This is a prophet. But they were, as you said,
there was a lot of people who did not believe and remember that
they didn't want to believe.
It was only after they crucified Christ, many of them get to realize that they had put the Son of God, they had crucified the Son of God.
Yeah.
And remember when the first crusade, a lot of these people who realized that they had put the Son of God to be crucified, they give their heart to God.
Yes.
But at that time the damage was done.
Yes.
Because all the time they did not believe.
And why is that? What does it take?
Because of the false system that was there against Christ.
Yes, but you know, Christ gave them some stronger evidence than what they had. So
yeah, but there was a blockage. There was a mental blockage
I agree
in the
with
people.
you. I agree. Mental blockage.
Mental blockage. So no matter, there are some people, no matter what you're gonna do or tell them, they will not believe.
And they were in denial.
Like 3 categories. They have some people, when you tell them something, they will take a little time before they believe what you're saying. Some people will believe it right away. Some people are gonna wait, maybe whoever God knows, before they accept.
Thomas.
Doubting Thomas.
All right.
He said plainly, if I don't touch you, what happened? You know?
All right, let me read Friday, because I'd like to read Friday, and then we'll wrap it up now. It says, Bethany was so near Jerusalem that the news of the raising of Lazarus was soon carried to the city. Through spies who had witnessed the miracle and Jewish rulers who speedily in possession of the facts, a meeting of the Sanhedrin was at once called to decide as to what should be done. Christ had now fully made manifest his control of death and the grave. And that's what they plan to do, as Brother Ralph said. You plan to kill this man and nullify this death and grave system that you have as your stronghold, as your power, and cast it down by bringing a man from the dead. So he said Christ had now fully made manifest his control of death and the grave. That mighty miracle was the crowning evidence offered by God to men, that he had sent his Son into the world for their salvation. That's key. It was a demonstration of divine power sufficient to convince every mind that was under the control of reason. Reason. And enlightened conscience. Many who witnessed the resurrection of Lazarus were led to believe on Jesus, many of them. But the hatred of the priest against him was intensified. They had rejected all lesser evidence of his divinity, and they were only enraged at this new miracle. The dead had been raised in the full light of day, and before a crowd of witnesses. No artifice could explain away such evidence. For this very reason, the enmity of the priest grew deadlier. They were more than ever determined to put a stop to Christ's work. Isaiah 5:37. The Sadducees, though not favorable to Christ, had not been so full of malignity toward him as were the Pharisees. So the Sadducees were a little calmer than the Pharisees. Their hatred had not been so bitter, but they were now thoroughly alarmed. They did not believe in a resurrection of the dead. Producing so-called signs, they had reasoned that it would be an end. It would be an impossibility for a dead body to be brought to life. But by a few words from Christ, their theory had been overthrown.
No big thing. He didn't know
And this is This is it. This is science, you know. That because it's science they use, and so this is their scientific proof or scientific evidence they had on